We're looking at all of the data. We take big data, right? Massive amounts of data. We apply machine learning to it. We apply artificial intelligence to it. And now we begin to customize the experience itself in the moment. A good example of this, if we were to be in this world right now today, but this is where we're heading, is to say, I'm driving home from work. I begin to crave ice cream. And as I'm driving by my local grocery store, a coupon pops up on my phone that says, hey, the grocery store has your favorite color or favorite flavor, which is Ben & Jerry's chocolate chip cookie dough. And we can have this ordered for you because we already have your credit card on file and all you have to do is approve it. And then you drive up and we'll have it available for curbside pickup. You pick it up and you drive home on your way, right? Now, that experience is predictive, is in the moment, is driven by my desires and my location, and it's leveraging data and machine learning and everything else to create that experience for me. There's no predefined personalization in that. And this is the big part that we are starting to see us move towards.
Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Jastravi, conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the marketing, branding, and the business world. Hi, Chris. We are thrilled
Hello.
to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Okay. Chris, we've been listening to your podcasts, and quoting very interesting thing that you have elaborated on often is how customers are becoming more curious, impatient, and demanding. And one of the stats I'm quoting here, customers research 2 to 4 times before conversion, 3 or less unhappy experiences, and 90% will leave. So in that context, how should marketers continuously innovate to remain relevant and provide value to their customers?
Sure. Yeah, some of these stats are really mind-blowing when you think about them.
Yeah.
But they're also not too far out of our understanding. Think about your own experiences. Most people don't make a immediate purchase. Most people will go and do a little research. We're very curious individuals because we're all customers. We have our own selection of products that we are aligned to, that we are loyal to and interested in. Then marketers and companies that have these products need to, at least at minimal, understand that behavior. And at best, start to ensure that you're providing that type of information and insight and relationship with the products and those customers so that you can make those connections much easier so that the time for purchase becomes much quicker, right? If I know that people are going to be researching, provide them the research material, right? If I know that people are going to be asking their friends, provide a mechanism for them to ask their friends, right? That's all going to help expedite the process and get them to buy your product faster.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Chris, when you talk about digital transformation to meet the need of your customers, could you take the example of any company, technology-based, preferably, which has done a great job of it?
If I was to ask you, what type of company is Domino's Pizza? And I'm going to ask the audience, anybody who's listening, I'll ask you, what type of company is Domino's Pizza? What would you say?
Service.
It's a delivery company.
A delivery company, okay? Anybody else? I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, it's a food services company, it's a pizza company, it's a retailer, maybe, if you want to think of it that way. But the reality is that Domino's Pizza considers themselves a technology company. Because what they realized was that if they were to build the technology and provide the technology that consumers want, How do I order a pizza? How do I get my pizza delivered faster? How do I order what I want on the platform and the devices and the technology that I have accessibility to? If Domino's delivered the technology, they would do one thing. They would sell more pizzas. So they look at themselves as this technology entity that sole focus is really on building incredible experiences, digital experiences that ultimately enable them to sell their primary product, pizza or food. And they do that around the world. It's incredible. And when we talk about digital transformation, it's all about, and a lot of people out there also think that digital transformation is all about updating the technology as fast as you can and bringing in new technology. It's really not that. Digital transformation is about having the technology in place that will allow you to expedite the ever evolving and changing expectations and needs of your customers. So let's just say that I told you I have a magic widget, and as long as you have this magic widget, you'll always be able to produce something that your customers want. Well, you'll be like, great, let's install it.
Yes, I want it.
It's the same concept. The goal here is to have the technology in place that is going to enable you to maintain that evolving perspective of a customer. And so some of the technologies that are out there that help you do this are things like the cloud, which gives you a lot of nimble abilities to evolve very quickly and to expand. If you want to expand into new regions, into new countries, you can do that very quickly in the cloud. Data, all data that is out there. Data has been around since the formation of man. Data is all about understanding what is happening within your organization, what your customers want, all of these stats that we're talking about, all comes from data. And so you have to be able to analyze and understand that data. And then ultimately the third one is not a technology, it's your people. So the people within your organization and the people outside of your organization, your customers, they need to be able to engage with you in the way and the mechanisms that are the way they want to, right? So if you're not directly understanding your people all around you, internally and externally, then none of this really matters. So have the technology in place like cloud, leverage the data so that you can make good, sound decisions about what customers want, and then constantly build that relationship with your people internally and externally so that you can maintain those needs and be able to grow your business.
Awesome. And in that context, you also talk about outside-in approach. So would you like to elaborate on that?
Sure. Yeah. The outside-in perspective really is a framework for understanding how your organization is going to build and operate. Most companies will go from an inside out perspective, which means we have this technology in place, we have this data, we have these products and services, and we're going to expose those out to our customers. So we have it, we're going to deliver it. The outside in perspective says, what do my customers want? And now let's bring that inward and build what they want. So instead of building it first and hoping they come, you ask what they want and then build what they want, right? A lot of wants and needs in there, but it's amazing how many people will talk to me about, I have this idea, we are going to build this thing, and they have no really clear understanding about what the customer wants. And then the first question I ask is, why are you building something if you don't even know if they want it or not? You know, and that's it. And if we go back to the Domino's example, it's a prime, aspect of the outside in, because not only are they building technology, they're building technology they know their customers want and are going to use so that they can sell more pizzas.
Yeah.
If they decided, hey, we're just going to go build this technology and it has no direct impact on selling more pizzas, then why would you even build the technology? That's outside in.
Yeah, super. And we'll move to the other topic, but I would just leave it that you've talked about in great detail of how this is valid across the customer journey and how tangible 5x, 10x business value can be provided to the customer if these things are actually implemented.
It's a good point. If you look at the customer journey or the value chain, and you think about, again, inside out, which is I've got data, I'm going to build a product using that data, I'm going to have developers expose it, I'm going to build an application that leverages it, then I'm going to publish that application and have my consumers begin to use it. That's a lot different scenario than saying, I know my customers want something, I'm going to build an app that provides that to them. Then I'm going to find developers who can build that app. And then I'm going to start to aggregate the data that's going to empower that app. And that's that outside in. When you take that approach, you can literally grow your business by 10x because you're directly building and supporting things you already know your customers want.
Right. That's great. That's great.
Thank
so another research that you cited is that majority of digital customers expect marketers to know what they want before you ask them, right? And then how do we deliver personalized and predictable experience to our customers? And in the role of AI, machine learning, can you sort of share your observations on that?
Yeah, this is a really powerful stat research that was done last year by Salesforce, actually, that showed that 76% of consumers expect you to know their needs before you even ask them, which sounds like a complete contradiction to everything I've already talked about, which is you have to go and ask them what they want so that you can build it. That is partially true. This is where machine learning and artificial intelligence, and most importantly, data comes into the picture. Because when you do this right, then what you can do is begin to predict what your customers' needs are. We've all heard the concepts around personalization. I think that's a very popular term. It's the in term, maybe in some locations. I need a personalized experience. Well, a personalized experience really is nothing more than saying, hey, I know that you like pepperoni on your pizza. So the next time you return, I'm going to suggest that you put pepperoni on your pizza. It's leveraging that data to make it more personalized. Or when I log into my e-commerce platform, it says, hi, Chris. Well, yeah, I hope you know who I am, right? That's a personalized experience. We're talking a much further down the path from this. We're looking at all of the data. We take big data, right? Massive amounts of data. We apply machine learning to it. We apply artificial intelligence to it. And now we begin to customize the experience itself in the moment. A good example of this, if we were to be in this world right now today, but this is where we're heading, is to say, I'm driving home from work. I begin to crave ice cream. And as I'm driving by my local grocery store, a coupon pops up on my phone that says, hey, the grocery store has your favorite color or favorite flavor, which is Ben & Jerry's chocolate chip cookie dough. And it's on sale right now. We can have this ordered for you because we already have your credit card on file and all you have to do is approve it. And then you drive up and we'll have it available for curbside pickup. You pick it up and you drive home on your way, right? Now, that experience is predictive, is in the moment, is driven by my desires and my location, and it's leveraging data and machine learning and everything else to create that experience for me. There's no predefined personalization in that. And this is the big part that we are starting to see us move towards, where it's And especially, as like I mentioned, curbside pickup, that type of personalized experience for me specifically, it's a lot stronger than, the three of us basically logging into the same site and basically getting the exact same experience, but changing our names.
Right. I mean, that sort of, it's quite difficult, very tough to do actually. I mean, if you look at your neighborhood grocers who've been there, with you for lots of years, they sort of intuitively understand what they want, and they often recommend new stuff that's come up. And so, but for corporations to sort of, develop, such an understanding and to be able to predict that, what kind of, steps they need to take to sort of, start on that journey. I mean, while we realize that the social media does that really well. For example, a Facebook would analyze a few likes that you've made, and basis of that they are able to predict your personality a lot better than your friend does, and then show up ads or stuff which are relevant to you. So at a social media level, these guys are doing a great job, but at a company level, a lot of companies are still struggling. So can you sort of share some tips for them to be able to do that well, or start on the journey at least?
Yeah. Once again, I think there's a lot of people who are listening who say, you turn on my phone and all of a sudden I get it, I'm in the shower and I'm thinking about Ben and Jerry's chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. I log into Facebook and all of a sudden there's an ad for Ben and Jerry's chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. And they're like, how'd they do that? Right? It's like, it's magic. Right. That's because ultimately at the foundation of all of this is data. And you touched on it. What you like, what you view, what you spend time on, what you engage with on a regular basis. All of that data can help me unlock your personality profile. And the more you understand the data, then the better I can make these types of predictions. So the data actually is the easy part because we're all connected. We've got data everywhere. You've got smart homes with smart thermostats and smart lighting to soon to be smarter cars and connected vehicles to your social media profile to all of this. We talk about, the scary aspects of all of this data out there. The reality is that data is already out there. Right. Most of it is privatized. So, I'm not too concerned about people knowing who I am or what it's about, but the data's there. Now we just have to figure out how to analyze that data better and leverage that data to make these technology opportunities available to us. So artificial intelligence, machine learning is added on top of that to help better analyze that data. APIs are being used, APIs, application programming interfaces, are being used to expose that data to make the connections. So back to my example of I'm in my car, I'm driving home, connected to the grocery store, get a coupon. An API in a connected car and a connected grocery store enables that capability, right? So these technologies are already out. We just have to start seeing a more advancement of those technologies. The challenge is not necessarily the technology right now. The challenge is most enterprises or companies and organizations are not prepared to do it. They are struggling. They're lagging in the updates of their technology. They may have too many processes or procedures or internal politics that are blocking them from exposing this data in a way that they can leverage to grow their business, right? The problem is not, again, trying to understand how this will happen. The problem is literally people refusing to allow it to happen. And so I think we've got a little ways to go still for organizations and companies like a grocery store to say, hey, we're going to create this really unique connected experience and begin exposing this data in a way that our consumers are going to find valuable.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that, it's more of a change management kind of a initiative that is needed at the organizational level. And, and also try to sort of break the silos and the hierarchies and get, data stored by different systems to talk to each other, basically sort of, drive, the organization as well as the guys at the top to sort of, deliver on these connected experiences that you're talking about. I'm coming to connected experiences, again, something in your research you cited that connected experiences will overtake price and product as key differentiator for brands, and majority of customers will pay more for these experiences. And and now we hear a lot about the omni-channel, channel-less experiences, frictionless experiences, seamless experience. I mean, all the less, so many less experiences. Basically, if you're looking at sort of these connected experiences, again, one is the issue in terms of mindset, but also in terms of how to deliver and how to emphasize that within the organization is an important challenge for companies. While at the customer level, they are getting these experiences, if maybe not in your industry, but in some other industry, they're getting an experience and they want that experience in your industry as well. So how would you react to these kind of challenges that the companies are facing, and what are your tips in terms of trying to deliver these experiences?
I'll add one more. We have now multi-experience, and multi-experience is basically the introduction of other senses in the overall experience. You've got a digital experience, which is primarily, maybe touch and sight, but as you start to add in things like hearing and taste and smell into those experiences, it's truly incredible where we're heading. But yeah, there's a lot of experiences, and what you touched on was really the foundation of what digital transformation is all about. And I've touched on it also earlier when I said ultimately this boils down to people. Because yes, a lot of organizations have processes and procedures and politics, and we just don't do things that way, or we can't do things that way is some of the number one excuses. No, it's not that you can't do things this way. It's just you choose not to do things this way. This is your choice, just like the Blockbuster case. They chose not to evolve, and because they chose not to evolve, they went out of business. That is the bottom line. You either will choose to evolve and transform and adapt to what your customers want, or you will go out of business. And of course, I've spoken with a lot of enterprises out there that say, we're a 90-year-old company, we're never going to go out of business. That arrogance puts you out of business as well. And you touched on it also. Ultimately, customers boil down to it's their choice. It's their choice to buy from you or not buy from you. And if the experience, to the stat that you mentioned, they will engage with you more based on the experience than on the product or service. People will pay more for this experience. If the experience is not what they want, they will go off and find that experience from somebody else who will provide it. That is the bottom line. There is loyalty still out there. There's a lot of people who are loyal to a brand, and they may suffer through a poor experience just to stay loyal. But we are slowly seeing that even some of that loyalness will start to drift off to other experiences that meet those needs. That we're seeing this a lot in the financial sector, where you may be very loyal to a bank, but the first moment you try to do something like deposit your check with your phone and it doesn't work, and you're like, my gosh, my cousin is doing this without any problems. What bank are you using? That loyalness starts to drift away.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, really, this just boils down to a culture within your organization that says, we are going to evolve and transform and build these experiences that our customers want, outside in perspective, or we're not. And if you don't, they're going to go and find someone who will provide it.
Right. And a lot of startups and a lot of, disruption, all these, small companies which are coming up, they're doing exactly that. They're looking at the organization outside in. Most of the founders are not really people from the industry. They might be just a customer who faced a problem and they went about solving it. So I mean, if the big guys are not noticing, they'll be disrupted out of existence. Now coming to your API thing which you mentioned earlier, I mean, in your talk you've talked about having an API first strategy, because a lot of people like us look at APIs as just integrators.
Sure. I love it. I love APIs as integrators. For everyone out here who understands what an API is, application programming interface, and believes that APIs are nothing but integrators, you're the first people who are going to go out of business because APIs, yes, are integrators, but they are so much more. And when you understand what they really are and what they really can accomplish for you, is the moment where hopefully that light bulb goes on, you have an aha moment, and you begin looking at these things completely differently so that you can build a stronger business. So APIs, and I love this because sometimes I actually refer them as application people interfaces, APIs, because that's what they do. They're not an interface between a technology and technology. Yes, if we want to get into the technical piece of this, that's what they do. But when we look at it from a business lens and we say things like, I'm driving down the street and I want to connect directly with my grocery store so that I can get my Ben & Jerry's chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream, that's a people connector. That interface between my car and my grocery store is happening by an API that is creating an experience for me. And what most organizations who look at APIs as solely as an integration mechanism, they don't see the value in that. And a lot of times they want to build the API because, okay, I need to connect this system with this system or this software with this software. But that's inside out. At no point in time I'm saying, what is the value of connecting this system with this system? What is it actually going to give my customer? Not my technology, not my business. So even if I say something like, I'm going to connect this system with this system because it's going to speed things up. Speed things up for who?
Right.
Speed things up for my customer? If that's the case, great. There's value in that. If I simply say, well, I want to decrease the processing time so that my coworkers can get data faster, why? Honestly, what's the value of that for your customer? Outside in. And if you can't put a direct correlation or value proposition on the API itself, then why are you building that API? It becomes a people connector more than an integration between systems. And so when I think of it in this case, that's what API first is. API first is basically saying, I'm going to build my APIs first, and those APIs are going to have a direct connection to a customer value proposition. And then from there, working from outside in, I'm going to then start to understand what interactions and interfaces and connections and systems do I need to connect those to support the company or to support my technology. But if it doesn't start on the outside first, then there's really no point in having them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the other thing, we've seen in your presentation is that, it's also possible to monetize, data through APIs. And you've also, advocated using APIs, as a good revenue stream. And you've talked of some specific examples like AccuWeather, and we know examples like Google Maps, for example. So, I mean, how do you look at, APIs, one as a way to monetize data? That is one. And in light of that, there are other issues like, for example, security, for example, sharing data with your competition and stuff like that. So how do you look at this overall, all these, barriers which come in terms of, monetizing API and even using APIs in general?
Sure. So the very first question, it's an easy question for everyone who's listening. If I said that I can add $50 million to your revenue this year by monetizing APIs, how many people are raising their hands? How many people are driving in the car and nodding like, yeah, $50 million? Sure. I'll take an extra $50 million. That is what we are seeing when organizations monetize APIs. Now, how do you monetize APIs? Again, it goes back to what we were just talking about. If I look at APIs as simply an integration vehicle between system A and system B, what's the value in that? There's no reason to monetize that. But if I take my API and I package it and I wrap some interesting context around it and I make it something that customers want to actually buy, and the API becomes a product with its own product lifecycle, with its own marketing campaign and branding, and that API becomes a service or a product that I can sell as a package, and people want to pay me for it. That's what then opens up these new lines of business, these revenue streams, generating $50 million. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to generate $50 million, but we've got a lot of use cases anywhere between, say, $50,000 a month to $50 million a year to, a couple of million in between. And it's all based on this one philosophy of the API itself becomes a product, becomes a monetizable asset that you can distribute and sell. And then you get into the question, yeah, but I've got data and it's sensitive and I don't want to expose it. And this is challenging for me. And I can't just release all of my proprietary information because then my customers and my competition is going to get it. What if I told you that part of that $50 million is coming actually from your competitors?
Right.
That your competitors are actually paying you to get that information. Again, this is very challenging for businesses to think about, well, if I expose my data to my competitors, they can use that and put me out of business, versus if I expose my data to my competitors and my competitors are actually paying me for that data, who cares? Right? No, I get it. That's a mindset, and that's very challenging for people. I will say this, that API monetization is not necessarily for every company. There does have to be some sense of value to the data itself. And you won't expose all data. You might expose logic or different types of resources, different ways of exposing that data. So you have to go through a process of understanding what data you have, what data do you want to expose, what data are you able to expose, what data has value. As an example, you mentioned Google Maps. There's no point in trying to monetize all of the locations that I have, a store, because that information is most likely already available for free out there in the world. Just look it up on Google. But if I have a really cool, unique asset that is very unique to what my business is and is very valuable, and I could sell it for, say, $1 every time you use that API, it's like a microtransaction. Those microtransactions build up, and now $1 every second, all of a sudden you've got $60 per minute. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait a second, I'm generating real money because people want this and they're buying it. And so again, there's a mindset in here that you have to understand, but ultimately most organizations are moving towards an API marketplace, building an API economy where they can actually package these APIs as products, expose them, monetize them, and then ultimately connect them with other companies so that you can create these really interesting and compelling experiences that, as we've talked about, if the experience is great, people are going to come in and buy from you more often because of that experience. And that's what you're trying to build here. You're trying to build these really unique and engaging experiences by publishing your APIs in a way that will allow other people to connect with you and grow new lines of revenue, new businesses, and really engaging experiences.
Right, and you tend to learn from them also. The way you're others are using your API also gives you sort of, inputs in how you need to possibly evolve your business model. So it's not just a monetizing, thing, which also helps you evolve your company and also become more possibly competitive and more sort of relevant for the future.
I could probably go in any number of directions on this, but ultimately what you're saying is there's most definitely a feedback loop in this process.
Mhm.
The APIs as products provide analytics. So no difference than, say, Google Analytics on your website, where you can log in and learn who's using your website and the frequency that they're using it. API products have the exact same capabilities so that you can analyze what's working, what's not working. And for those companies that are out there that look at that analytics and use it as a feedback loop to understand what their customers are doing without asking, you can then start to enhance those APIs, offer new features to just expand further those experiences. Most customers of mine that are out there, a lot of our Google customers that are out there are doing just that. They're leveraging those APIs, they're looking at the analytics, they're evolving and they're growing, and they're making really incredible progress, in that process.
Okay, Chris, you've been talking about compelling experiences, and we feel compelled to take you to your previous avatar when you were working with Fox Broadcasting, and you developed storytelling technologies that transformed users' experience for television content like American Idol. Would you like to share, what that transformation was about?
Yeah. Well, Fox Broadcasting was a really fun job, obviously, getting to work with a lot of different television shows and movies. And I think a lot of what I'm talking about right now, I learned also while at Fox, doing things like working on American Idol. Because what you found, even through 10 seasons or so, 20 seasons of American Idol, was that as technology evolved, the first thing that we noticed was how the viewers of a show like American Idol wanted to vote for their favorite artist.
Mm.
So it went from dial in on a phone and putting in an ID to actually using my phone and logging into a website to, an evolution of technology, not because that's what the show wanted to do, but that's what the viewers of the show wanted to do. There was even one year that we were opening it up to like Twitter. So you could vote for your favorite contestant directly on Twitter and pull in that social feed aspect of it. All of this was because of the demands and request. And what we had to do was provide the technology that met those demands. And if we were to predict what the voting mechanism of American Idol would look like in the next 5 years, it's going to be something that is a lot more predictive. It's going to be something where, how much time do I watch a particular artist? How much engagement do I have? Do I follow somebody? Do I support them in ways, that are beyond the show itself? How can I collaborate with all of that data and provide a more accurate thought of who I support in real time, in the moment, and then, toss on some AI and ML with that to really make that experience engaging. So these are the things that, the entertainment industry and even the video game industry is the foundation for where a lot of technology comes from. There's a lot of, younger generation, younger people who are engaged with these technologies, and the older generation and traditional companies take a lot of time to catch up to that. Something like TikTok is a great example, where the popularity of TikTok was mind-blowing But it wasn't until like a year, almost 2 years after TikTok's popularity, did businesses say, oh, wait a second, I need to leverage this in some way. And that's what we're seeing. We saw that on American Idol. We saw that on a couple of other television shows. And so the more you can keep a pulse on what people are looking for and want, the better that you can be able to adapt to it.
Superb. And, as you were saying, these technologies actually made a show like American Idol, choosing America's Idol. I mean, you cannot, that whole feeling that we are choosing our own idol. I mean, it was so central to a show like that. And thank God the companies were listening and evolving and transforming. Are you ready for this?
Oh my God. Rapid fire, yes.
Slightly ancient technology.
Yeah, it's got a knife also. It can.
I love it. I'm going to have to go get one of those.
Favorite ice cream?
Chocolate chip cookie dough. Ben and Jerry's. And then I like to pour a little caramel on top of it.
Okay. What do you prefer? Selling movies or selling software?
Selling movies, by far.
Okay. Thing you like most about your 14-year-old son?
He loves video games.
Yay. Inspiration for you. Okay. If you could time travel in past and future, where would you like to go and why?
1955 and look for Marty McFly, and 2055 because I'd like to see if we have flying vehicles by then.
Right.
How specific. Wow. Okay. Your fantasy adventure novel summary.
That's a hard one because I can't really talk too much about it. But what I will say is it's a fantasy adventure featuring a young girl who gets lost in a paranormal world.
Oh,
Hey,
very interesting.
wow. Lovely. Look forward to it. Okay. Mother's best advice.
Butter in all your cooking.
Lovely. Your favorite personal possession.
Probably my computer.
Okay. If you didn't have to sleep, Chris, what would you do with that time?
I don't sleep.
Okay. Your alternate profession could have been?
Movie director.
Right.
Oh, okay.
You could still go for it, right? After you get your novel out, you could still take a shot, right?
Yeah. That's a
quick side note on that. When I started, my work and career, I thought, should I get into technology or should I do something that was a little bit more solid and sure and do movie directing? And I ultimately decided to go with the technology. But back then it was, movies were much bigger than technology. So
your most often used phrase.
Choose or die.
Okay.
Or awesome. I've been saying awesome a lot lately.
Right.
Most of my podcasts, I'm like, I'm awesome. Yeah. I'm awesome.
Oh, in that context.
Bringing it back from the 80s.
I'm awesome. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. One thing no one knows about you.
My middle name. Most people don't know what my middle name is. So
yes.
So we'll keep it that way.
Okay.
So do you even have one? I mean, I'm getting suspicious.
I'm getting curious.
Yep. I have one, but yeah, most people don't know what that is. So yeah.
Okay,
Right.
because he hasn't told.
Okay, so let's ask you something that you ask in your podcast. What is the last thing that you downloaded? Last software that you downloaded?
Ooh, last thing that I've downloaded, so I did just download an Audible book. Thrawn Ascendancy. This is a Star Wars book based on Thrawn, which is a character in the Star Wars world.
Right.
And this is his origin story. And so I just downloaded that
what would you like to tell your 18-year-old self?
So this one will take a little bit longer than a short one, but I will try to make it quick.
Okay.
Which is when I was 18, I worked at a software store, and it was in a mall, and it was one of my first jobs, and so I would go in and basically sell software. And one of my coworkers, during his breaks, he would go and look at the bookshelves. We had both software and books and some games and things. But again, this was a long time ago and way before the Best Buys of the world.
Yeah.
So he would go look at a book, and the book was a list of IP addresses, which was really the foundation of the internet. We did not have the internet back then. There was no .coms. It was only IP addresses, and it was a yellow page listed in this particular topic. Here's the IP address. Go home and enter it into your computer. All of our coworkers, myself included, would give him such a hard time. We would sit there and make fun of him for reading this phone book all the time. And like, why are you reading those IP addresses? They're never going to amount to anything. You're wasting your time. That's ridiculous. Oh my gosh, would I just want to go back and tell myself, dude, like, take that yellow page book and hold on to it for the next 5 years, buy up every single .com you could possibly buy when it comes out. I would be rich as all heck. So yeah, I would go back definitely and tell myself, pick up a copy of that yellow page book and follow the internet a lot more closer.
Chris, what's next?
What's next? Well, you never know what's next. That's the beauty of technology and life and business. What's on my horizon? I'm working on the book, as you mentioned. So hopefully I'll be able to publish a great fantasy book here soon. I'm also working on a business book, so working on 2 books at the same time. Right. And so hopefully, get some of those books published and out there. Stay at Google and love all of the work that I'm doing with some great companies and helping them evolve their technology and look at things differently. And so, I'll just keep doing that.
Okay, Chris, would you like to share your online addresses?
We also know that you have a podcast called That
Digital Show,
right? So people just check out his podcast. Very nice. I mean, I went through a lot of episodes myself and a lot of learning there, right?
Yeah, you can find me at chrishood.com, CHRISHOOD.com. No middle initial or middle name, so just chrishood.com. And pretty much everything that you want to know about me and where you can find my stuff is going to be there. That's the easiest thing to do. All my social profiles are there. Links to my podcast are there. As you mentioned, I do host a podcast called That Digital Show. That's available across all of the major podcast platforms. So you can look that up and find it and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, that's it. Find me at chrishood.com or find my podcast, That Digital Show. So feedback is awesome. This is great. Yeah. No, it's been a great time chatting with you. Awesome podcast. I love that you're doing research and really getting into the topics in a lot of detail. I will tell you this. You reached out to me to come on to the show. And the first thing that I did, obviously, as you would expect, is I went to listen to some of your shows. And I listened to them and I said, wow, this is really interesting. This is great. And I'll tell you, I get asked to do a lot of podcasts and I obviously get a lot of offers and I go and I listen to various podcasts and, they're not necessarily that interesting. So,
thanks for that.
So pat on your back. Great time. Really appreciate the insightful questions and the really intelligent conversation. And love your show and continue to keep doing it. Keep it up.
Right. And thanks, thanks,
so
Chris,
much,
for all the presentations that you're putting up out there. We follow, so I mean, keep putting that out and spreading all the knowledge and stuff like that. Thanks for that, Chris.